world is this, where I show up for church one week just to try it out, see what it's all about, but next week I'm up here singing. What the heck is that all about? I'm like, really? Okay. I'm going to sing something that kind of goes along with the theme for the month, which is I am a possibilitarian, right? So this should be a little familiar, so feel free to sing along. At least familiar with some. I am unwritten, can't read my mind, I'm undefined. I'm just beginning, the pen's in my hand, ending unplanned. Staring at the blank page before you, open up the dirty window, let the sun illuminate the words that you cannot find. Reaching for something in the distance, so close you can almost taste it. Release your inhibitions. No one else can feel it for you, only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips. Treasure something words unspoken. Live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins. The rest is still unwritten. Hey. Oh, I break tradition. Sometimes my tries are outside the lines. Yeah, we've been conditioned to not make mistakes, but I can't live that way, no. Staring at the blank page before you, open up the dirty window, let the sun illuminate the words that you cannot find. Reaching for something in that distance, so close you can almost taste it. Release your inhibitions. No one else can feel it for you, only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips. Treasure something words unspoken. Live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins. No one else can feel it for you, only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips. Treasure something words unspoken. Live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins. The rest is still unwritten. Staring at the blank page before you, open up the dirty window, let the sun illuminate the words that you cannot find. Reaching for something in the distance, so close you can almost taste it. Release your inhibitions. No one else can feel it for you, only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips. Treasure something words unspoken. Live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins. No one else can feel it for you, only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips. Treasure something words unspoken. Live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins. The rest is still unwritten. Oh, the rest is still unwritten. The rest is still unwritten. Oh, the rest is still unwritten.
Well, good morning again.
Good morning.
We are this month talking about becoming a possibilitarian, on the road to being a possibilitarian. And possibilitarian ultimately is an individual or a person or a way of thinking, a way of being where we see the possibilities, the infinite possibilities that lie there before us. And we consider them and we understand them and we know them. And if we're going to be a possibilitarian, if we're going to look for the things possible, if we're going to allow what is possible into our lives, one of the things that happens is negativity likes to creep in. They're negative people. We all, unfortunately, happen to know and have negative people in our lives, people who want to tell us that it can't be done, people who want to laugh at our dreams, people who want to try to keep us down, people who want to make us seem as if we are living in some type of fantasy land and are not facing reality. I remember reading a story very recently about an engineer at Motorola back in the late 1960s who had a vision that people would one day be able to take a telephone that was powered by a battery and carry it with them anywhere they wanted to. And how the people at his company laughed at him. But then maybe about 15 years after that, Motorola produced the first cell phone. And today, how many people do you know that don't have a cell phone? And even if it's not a smartphone, because some of our parents, still like the flip phones, But ultimately, the idea that he had, that dream, that they laughed at him at first, but it changed the way we live our lives today. I was at my daughter's induction ceremony yesterday for her high school sorority that she just crossed over into. And I thought about the fact that there outside, after the event was over, there were some people who were saying, oh, I forgot my camera, but everybody else was just taking their phone out and taking pictures, and now they're all over Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and all of those other things. You think way back then they laughed at this man and what has developed as a result. So often we find the negative and the negative people that come our way. And I remember one person who said, don't let the people who have lost their dreams make you lose yours. Don't let the people who've lost their dreams make you lose yours. It's about being in that place where we can see the possibilities. And a part of that has to come with our being aware also of how we talk to ourselves. How we talk to ourselves, because our self-talk is important. How we frame things, how we see things is important. Because after all, how much effect can a person who's being negative toward us or saying negative things have to us if we have a positive outlook, if we have positive intent, if we see the possibilities, if we are in that space, no matter how negative they want to be, how negative things might seem, when we are talking to ourselves in such a way that we affirm that we are positive, that we affirm the possibilities, that we affirm all of those kinds of things, then ultimately, no matter what other people say or do, won't make much of a difference. We can overcome those things. We can go beyond those things. We can stand up in the face of those things. I remember my father telling me about a man, my father when he was still a part of the CME Church, and it was a man who was one of the bishops who had just been before the legislative body of that denomination, and he had suffered what was kind of, for some people, a humiliating experience, something he had tried to convince them to do to pass. The people at that point were reluctant to do so, and they were saying a lot of negative things. And my father said he saw him, and it happened here in Memphis, he saw him outside there at the church there on Linden Avenue, Mount Olive, walking down the street, and he saw him talking to himself. So he went out to encourage him, and as he did, what he heard him saying to him, the man saying to himself, was, hold your head up. You are from a family that knows about success. Hold your head up. You are the descendants of great and mighty people. Hold your head up. But that kind of self-talk is what we have to do. That kind of thing. You've heard me say, my own personal journey, When I had a period in my life where I came from a place of just depression and feeling hopeless and feeling like that there was nothing that I could do, something very simple for me made the difference. I took an index card and I wrote 10 things about myself that were positive, that were affirmative. And let me tell you, I was at that point in my life where it took me a while to get to 10 things. A while to get to 10 things. And I fudged a few of them. But I knew that if I could fake it till I made it. So I put those down on that index card. I take that index card to my bathroom mirror, and every morning when I got up, I would stand before the mirror and I would look at that index card and I would read every last one of those things about myself that were positive and affirmative. And every night before I went to bed, I'd do the very same thing. Now in the beginning, there was more of me that disbelieved what was on that card than believed what was on that card. But I kept on reading the card. I kept on affirming it until I got to the point where no longer was I just reading a list, I was feeling a list. I began to find within myself that there was something that was happening within me that was absorbing the positive words that were there, something that was taking them in. Something happened and there was a shift. And I didn't need the card anymore. I knew it from memory, but more importantly, when we say know it by heart, what it meant was that my heart had kicked in a place and in a vibration that it meant something. And I stood there proudly and I affirmed those things. And what I saw happening in my life as I continued to affirm and to know those things started to shape up on the outside. Because ultimately, it's as what's happening within us focuses on or influences what happens outside. And as I became more aware and more confident and felt bolder and started to see those things about me and experience and feel those things about me, other people began to remark something in you's changed. There's something different about you. And where I couldn't get out of bed at first without a long trial and a long deliberation and that kind of thing, I jumped out of bed ready for the day because I knew that something was there that was possible for me. That is how we operate. That is how we can look at what's happening to us. That is how we can overcome the negativity. That is how we can get beyond it. I remember again when I was in high school, and this was when I first started to open my mind. If you know my journey, when I was a teenager, I started to read books like The Magic of Thinking Big, and I started reading other New Thought authors. Didn't even know they were New Thought at the time. I just saw something, I felt something resonated with me. And there was a particular time in high school where I ran track, and it just so happened that, I picked up the newspaper one day, and we had just recently had a track meet, and there my picture was. I was coming over a hurdle. Now, I never pretended to be the world's greatest hurdler or anything like that. It was just something that I loved to do. And I was coming over the hurdle, and they had the caption under there. My high school's name was Chaminade Julien. They shortened it to CJ. CJ's Gilmore in perfect form. There I was coming over the hurdle. Got to the next track meet, and there was a person from our rival high school. This was a guy that was really a fantastic runner and a fantastic hurdler. And he came up to me and said, yeah, they had your picture in the paper. They should have had mine because I was kicking your so-and-so at the time. And what happened at that moment, there was a part of me that wanted to shrink, but another part of me that got mad. And I said to myself, you ain't going to talk to me like that. I'm going to show him something. So we got in the blocks, and it came time for the race to start. And this was what we're called the 330 intermediate hurdles, 330 yards around the portion of the track. Got in the race, the gun went off, took out of the blocks, and there was usually a point in the race where I would get tired and I would start to fade. But there was something in me at that moment that said, no, I'm not tired. I got a burst of speed. I took off. Next thing I know, I was breaking the tape in first place. I turned around. The people from my high school, my sister in particular, were going crazy. She came running out of the stands, my other colleagues and everything. And when he got across, I turned to shake his hand. He wouldn't even shake my hand. He walked on away. And he went on to win the state, or the place in the state. I never ran like that again. But what it showed me early on is that when we begin to use our creative ability, the expression of God that is in us, we can change things. We can do things. I had that moment then, and now when there's situations before me that are seemingly negative, seemingly could have the potential to defeat me, I find myself going back to moments like that, remembering that just as I did it then, I can do it now. Just as the same power that all the other people that are out there being successful and whatever it is that they are doing are able to do it, that you can do it too. That it's the same ability, the same presence, the same power, the same God, the same vibration, the same strength. All of it is available to each and every one of us. It's possible. It's possible. Whatever it is that we are seeking, that we wish to have happen in our lives, it's possible. When we get a hold of that, when we begin to understand that, we change things in our lives. We have things happening. People wonder how it is that we can do this or we can do that. How it's happening? It's happening because I know, I understand that all things are possible. I understand that I'm living life, if we would go with the Apostle Paul, in the Spirit. You see, the Apostle Paul would write about living life in the flesh and living life in the Spirit. And a lot of people like to take that and make that a sexual connotation. You know, living in the flesh being bad, and all of those carnal kinds of things. But ultimately, if you understand what he was really talking about there in the Greek, it was talking about living a life trying to do it ourselves with our own power, or life in the Spirit. Being endowed with that Spirit that is able, ultimately able, whatever it is that we can even think or imagine, bring it into reality. So it is.
So it is.